A symbolic moment of change in Myanmar. After years of struggle, a democratically elected parliament meets for the first time. Military rule is over, but what does freedom mean for Myanmar's minorities? Still one of the most persecuted in the world. This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Jane Dutton. A new parliament has been sworn in Myanmar. It's been called a historic moment in the country's transition from military rule to civilian democracy. But what does that mean for Myanmar's Muslim minority, the Rohingya, who've been attacked, prevented from voting and driven from their homes? We'll explore those questions with our guests in a moment. But first, Al Jazeera's Rob McBride reports from the capital, Naypyidaw.
Members of Parliament from Myanmar's National League for Democracy, or NLD, finally take power, but it is a power shared. After half a century in control, the military will still retain a firm hold. They get a quarter of all seats in Parliament, keep control of important ministries, and can block any constitutional change. Analysts say that will make it difficult for the NLD to govern.
I think as long as the military appointees are sitting in the parliament, the NLD government cannot govern effectively.
The military themselves were not saying too much.
Is it going to be a good government, a workable government? Hello?
During the years of military rule, NLD supporter Win Tin was constantly in and out of detention. Reconciliation will take effort.
It is a very sensitive time. Negotiations need to take place to build up trust.
This is a country in need of effective government. Often referred to as democracy on a leash, there's no doubting whose hand is on it. The hope for the NLD is that the military feel comfortable enough in this delicate relationship that they don't exercise their powers. The list of priorities for the new MPs is long. Getting all ethnic groups to sign up to a national ceasefire after years of conflict. Ending the marginalisation and persecution of the minority Rohingya. And then there's the economy after years of stagnation. There are signs of recovery. Tun used to have a roadside stall selling fuel from bottles. Now he has a filling station.
You hardly saw a car or motorbike, but now nearly every house has at least one motorbike.
And among all the other priorities of this new parliament, the business of a new president. NLD leader Aung San Suu Kyi is blocked by a constitutional clause that would need to be changed with agreement from the military. In this new atmosphere of change, even that seems possible.
Over half a century of military rule has formally ended. Let's have a look back on how we got here. Aung San Suu Kyi founded the National League for Democracy in 1988. It was a time of huge anti-government protests. The following year, she was placed under house arrest. In 1990, she won a landslide victory in the first free elections in 30 years. But the military ignored the results. Change was coming, but it would take a long time. Suu Kyi was released in 2010. By then, she was a Nobel Prize winner. A nominally civilian government was sworn in 2011, but with former General Thein Sein in charge. The following year, Suu Kyi hailed a new era for Myanmar when her party, the NLD party, was brought back into the political process. Soon, censorship was abolished, peaceful protest permitted, and more political prisoners freed. And last November's election saw her party win enough seats to form a government. Well, let's bring in our three guests now. Kyaw Zwai Mo, an editor with the Irrawaddy news magazine, is in Myanmar's capital, Naypyidaw. In London, Tun Kin, president of the Burmese Rohingya organisation in the UK. And joining us on Skype from Yangon, Adam Cooper, Myanmar country representative at the Centre for Humanitarian Dialogue. So thank you very much for joining us on this quite important day, I should imagine, for Myanmar's history. Kyaw Zwai Mo, how do you feel about what's happening, the fact that we're seeing a democratically elected government for the first time in 50 years?
I think this is the first time for the new civilian government to govern the country over the past 60 years. So it is a historic moment, but I think the military is still very powerful. So I think the new administration of the Aung San Suu Kyi will have to make a compromise with the current military leadership, especially the commander-in-chief of the military senior general Min Aung Hlaing. Without their compromise, the new administration will not do a lot at the moment.
All right, but are people celebrating? I mean, do people feel that change really is happening to the country and that it's sustainable?
Well, I think this is kind of the real change for the Burmese people, because in November 8 last year, majority of the Burmese people voted for the National League for Democracy, which was led by the Aung San Suu Kyi. So it is really changed. But at the same time, the Burmese people know that the constitution is very undemocratic. So the new administration will be formed in accordance with that 2008 constitution. So that's why I think even Aung San Suu Kyi now is still negotiating with the current military leadership. Without their agreement, she cannot even be the president, because the current constitution bars her from being the president.
All right, we are going to be talking about that a little bit later in the program. Adam Cooper, I'm interested to know what your response is to what we've seen, the latest development in Parliament, and how important do you think it is for Myanmar?
Well, I think this is a landmark change. There's no doubting this is a historic occasion. I mean, as Chaw's Wamo says, there is a cautionary note in the air as well, because we don't know quite whether this transition will be successful or not. Right now, it's going very well, and there's been a relatively smooth handover of power. And we shouldn't underestimate just quite how significant that is in dictatorships that have given up the reins of power. This is quite unusual, I think, by international standards. But people are taking a wait-and-see approach, because they know that there's many potential pitfalls that lie ahead. And so while things on the surface seem to be relatively smooth, there are many debates which have yet to take place, primarily around constitutional change. And that could be a huge issue which sparks off tensions, which could disrupt the calm situation which we see at the moment.
Toon Khin, I'm just wondering how you feel about what's happening from where you are in London, and what you think it says about Myanmar's road to democracy and the transition in the country.
Well, it is a historical landmark, that is right, but we have to see the other side, how far NLD government should be able to do in future for Burma ethnic minorities, including the Rohingya people. So I'm quite doubt about it. And I think still, the military have power for ethnic issue. If you look at still the fightings are going on. Senior General Min Aung Hlaing is the most important person for ethnic issues. So we need to see how far current peace process will continue by NLD. But NLD still does not have that much power to control, military. So ethnic issues is under of military control. So this is quite important. The other side, if you look at the Rohingya issue, particularly, they are facing serious human rights violation, where international experts are saying genocide against Rohingyas is going on. This is serial issue. How NLD will manage to do it? What NLD what kind of a strategy NLD will use, and how far NLD leadership has willing to do. So we have to wait and see. And in my opinion, NLD should have have to do something very immediately on Rohingya issue, where international community is quite strongly concerned. That's what I think.
Okay, so many issues raised by all three of you, but Myanmar's new parliament is also historic for a different reason. It is the first in the country's history that doesn't contain a single Muslim MP. Over 1.1 million Muslim Rohingyas live in the western Rakhine state, which doesn't recognize them, and they were barred from taking part in November's election in 2012. At least 200 people were killed in a series of riots between Muslim and Buddhist communities. 140,000 Rohingya were forced into refugee camps, and over 120,000 have attempted to flee to neighbouring countries, many on overcrowded boats. From a humanitarian point of view, Adam Cooper, what is their situation, particularly the Rohingya Muslims, though many Muslims are persecuted in the country?
Yeah, I think this is probably the most troubling aspect of what's taken place over the past few years, and we've seen great progress made in other areas, a slow democratic reform, peace process with other ethnic minorities that has gone relatively well by international standards. But this is undoubtedly the most sensitive and difficult topic that the previous government had to deal with, which will be similarly a huge challenge for the NLD too. And there's no doubting the dire situation of Muslims living in Rakhine State. It is a humanitarian tragedy and does need to be addressed. I think the challenge for the NLD will be that this is a topic which is enormously sensitive in a domestic context, and she will need to find a way to balance the international pressure which is already being placed on her to address this topic, together with a deeply conservative public opinion which is very skeptical of any changes in that area. So that's probably the thorniest topic which she's going to have to deal with, but there's no doubt that it does need addressing.
Choswamo, Aung San Suu Kyi clearly has a massive task in front of her. We don't know what she's going to do about the Rohingya Muslims because she hasn't said anything about them. Why has she been so slow in taking any action on this topic?
I think at the moment Aung San Suu Kyi is really focused on whether she could be president or not. I think if she can become the president, if she is allowed to be the president by the military leadership, I think she might take probably rapid action against any kind of human rights violations. But I don't think she can do it at the moment. So I think that currently, especially these days, in coming weeks, the most important task for her is I think negotiating with the military leadership. For example, even if the new administration of Aung San Suu Kyi takes office in March, if they want to release all of the political prisoners, all of the political detainees from the prison, I think they really have to discuss with the Minister of the Home Affairs Ministry, which will be appointed by the military. So that person will be the very high-ranking official from the military. So without their agreement, they cannot even release the political prisoners which are being detained currently in the prison. So in terms of Rohingya issue, I think they really have to discuss with the military and also the very important ministries like the Home Affairs Ministries and Border Affairs Ministry after they formed the government in March 11. So
Tun Kin, sorry, let me bring Tun Kin in here. I mean, do you believe that that's why she has been so quiet on this topic? Is it because of the military? Do you believe that she has to focus on a healthy relationship with the military before she can deal with the Rohingya Muslims?
Compared with many decades, after 2010, what Rohingya situation is getting worse, this was done by President Thein Sein, President Thein Sein government. It is not particularly by the military, I should say, but other ethnic issues is quite concerned with military, but Rohingya issue is totally, anti-Rohingya campaign, anti-Muslim campaign created by, President Thein Sein government to undermine the support of NLD. That is the point we have to see here. And, NLD you can see landslide victory to NLD in 8th of November election. You know, anti-Rohingya campaign, anti-Muslim campaign were everywhere by Mabata, which was created by President Thein Sein government, you know. But still you can see people of the Burma want to see hope, not hate. That is the point. We can see here Aung San Suu Kyi should have spoken quite earlier about serious situation going on the Rohingya, where international experts have documented genocide is going on. So this is very serious issue. I think the more faster if the NLD party deal with it, they can save many lives of the Rohingya. You can see currently NLD have a strong mandate, NLD have a strong party unity. Elections are many years away. So this is the best opportunity for the NLD to speak up, you know, about Rohingya issue. I think this is the right time.
Okay, Adam Cooper, what do you believe is holding Aung San Suu Kyi back? I mean, many people thought that she is an iconic figure, somebody who's viewed as important sometimes as Nelson Mandela on the international stage, speaking out against victims, hasn't said anything. How is she going to change that, and will she be able to change that?
I mean, I would have quite modest expectations about what this government will be able to achieve on this issue. It is undoubtedly the hardest policy issue in the country. And as George Wamos says, her priority is the democratic transition and ensuring that she can negotiate a space for herself to govern. She eventually would like to become president and govern the country formally. And really anything else that might detract from that core objective is going to be lower down the to-do list, despite the fact that there is a humanitarian imperative to deal with the situation. But that is the political reality which I think
okay, but how is this relationship with not only Rohingyas going to change, but Muslims at large? How's it going to change in the country? I mean, they're treated like second-class citizens. They don't get the same rights as others living in Myanmar. So it's enormous change that we're talking about here.
I think one has to look at the historical precedents as well, because there are other Muslim populations within the country who have been very well integrated into Myanmar society, who have enjoyed those rights, but they have faced a much more threatening atmosphere over the past few years with the rise of Buddhist nationalism, which has, as Tunkin says, also come into the political mainstream. That's the most worrying aspect of what's happened in this political transition over the past few years. And from my point of view, once the genie's out of the bottle, it's very difficult to roll back. But really, it's about creating an identity for the country which is inclusive of all minorities, inclusive of all religions, and ensuring that everyone understands that when we say we are Myanmar, it can encompass a very wide range of backgrounds.
Yeah, let's talk more about
really
that transition. Excuse me, cutting you off there with Cho Zwa Mo, that of the Buddhist monks who were demonstrating on the streets against the military regime. Then many reports suggest that they worked with the military regime against these Rohingya Muslims. What led to that change, and how do you, as Adam put it, put the genie back into the bottle?
Well, I think our country really needs a very democratic and liberal administration right now. I think if you look back the past years, the government of the USGB was a very quite conservative and quite radical, which was dominated by the former military leaders. So that's why I think they really supported the radical movement because they really wanted to play with the religious people to gain their votes in the November election. So I think if the country gets a liberal administration, I think things might change, especially in the religious issue. So if the NLD's administration is liberal and democratic, I don't think we will see a lot of tensions between the ethnic people, between the different religious groups. I think that's the most important thing the country needs at the moment. Overall speaking, I think the NLD administration will not commit any kind of human rights violation, which the past government did. So I think but at the same time, many people have a high expectation from the new administration. But we shouldn't forget that the NLD doesn't have any kind of experience in the government. And over the past 25 years, many of them were put in jail, and then they were former political prisoners. So I don't think many people have that high expectation. Not only the Rohingya issue, I think but also the NLD government will face a lot of other bigger issues like the peace process and ceasefire agreement,
and reconciliation
and economic
as well.
issue.
I
think the NLD will have a lot of different challenges.
Tun Khin, I mean, that's an important point, isn't it? The lack of experience of many of these MPs, especially when it comes to dealing with the economy. That's an important fact at the moment. There's a lot of poverty in the country. Do you think the poverty could derail the changes that we've seen take place?
Yes, if you look at our country, yeah, that is really true. But we have to see serious human rights violations against ethnic people in Burma, including particularly the Rohingya people. So no matter what experience they have, this is important that international experts should deal with it to, to support NLD government. The other side, international community have to focus on ethnic minority issues, and particularly what serious situation going in western part of Arkan state. People, 1.3 million people living like a kind of giant prison. This is very important issue that international community should focus on, and NLD government immediately could do many things, lifting up restrictions, on Rohingya people to, lifting up restrictions from 8 agencies and to take action, ensure that security, provide for security on 8 workers, and restriction of movement, marriage, education. These things NLD could do. I don't think there is anything experience need on that to lift up those restrictions, to give the freedom for the basic freedom to the Rohingya people. And
well, we're not going to see that really, are we, regionally, Adam Cooper, or from the international community who have been, I mean, they've expressed their disgust and horror about what's been happening as far as the refugees are concerned, but very little pressure. How are we going to see Myanmar's role change within the region now and with its relationship with the US?
I think the geopolitical dimension has been one of the most interesting aspects of this transition. And there's no doubt that part of the reason that we're even seeing these changes happen over the past few years is because of the government deciding that they did not want to be solely reliant on China and reorienting their relations. And we've seen a normalization of diplomatic relations with almost all countries now. And I think with that will come, in time, a more assertive role with respect to all countries, but including within the region and within ASEAN. Myanmar's long been regarded, I think, as a basket case country almost within the region. But that's really shifting now in a way that they're setting a democratic example, which other ASEAN countries have yet to follow in some cases. So I do see a general trend that they will probably take a more proactive foreign policy, but still one which seeks to balance various interests without aligning themselves too closely with either the West or China or the region. And at the end of the day, whether it's ethnic minorities or other issues, domestic politics will trump all of those foreign policy concerns. So there is a limited amount of leverage that the international community has on any issue here. We don't have the power which many people hope we do. So that really has to be borne in mind when we're talking about any policy issue in the country.
All right, thanks for that, Adam Cooper. Those final comments in Yangon, Tun Khin in London, and Cho Zwa Mo in Naypyidaw. Thank you very much. And thank you to our viewers. Thanks very much for watching. You can get more on our program from our website, aljazeera.com, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join us on Twitter at AJ Inside Story. From me, Jane Dutton, and the rest of the team, goodbye for now.